guys, this is an incredible turnout. I hope everyone's able to hear me.
Yes.
And it's going to be quieter in the background. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ekta. Ritika and I co-run the Founders Forum. And let me just say we're so incredibly glad that instead of choosing to scroll on your Instagram in the bed on a Saturday morning, everyone showed up. And the registration and the turnout has been on point, so commendable. A little bit about me. I used to be in finance for a very long time, and then I realized that I love talking to people and I love talking about products, so might as well take a switch from finance to marketing. And that's how the MBA and the MS happened. So I came back, and while I was looking for ideas to start something of my own, Ritika came back from London, and then we decided to open a community where we can have founders, VCs, investors, everyone aligned with one purpose, and people can reach out to people, and you don't have to scout for them. You can lay down your bets and reach out to mentorship and opportunities. So in that respect, this is our third session, but with that community of ours, where the speakers are accessible to you. There's also a WhatsApp channel where we keep sharing our updates and about the next events, where you can have a tab and know whom to reach out and how to connect. One more thing that I want to say about the Founders Forum is the people you see here. There was a lot of thought in bringing the kind of profile, talent and caliber, because it's very well calibrated. Of course, these are celebrated people which I'm going to be sharing about their profiles, but yeah, keep coming and keep spreading the word, and let's see what we can do together. On that note, I'm going to introduce a fabulous panel that we have. Let me start with Dhananjay. He's the founder of Timble AI, which is focused on fraud detection for financial inclusion and detoxify, working towards access to clean drinking water at scale. Got that right, with the coffee.
Again, the whole for how much could we serve?
Let me just introduce, and then.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with Dhananjay again in case you guys. He's the founder of Timble AI, focused on fraud detection for financial inclusion and detoxify, working towards access to clean drinking water at scale. He's a Harvard and Wharton graduate, and also hosts the podcast called 3 Takeaways, where he breaks down big ideas into practical real-world insight. For anyone who wants to learn more about podcasts, this is the man. Now let's talk about Piyush. He is the founder and CEO of Neural Defense. And mostly he wears the t-shirt, but today for a change, you meet the man. An AI company tackling deepfakes and digital fraud. He's a Forbes India 30 under 30 honoree as well. And an MIT alum focused on protecting trust in an increasingly synthetic digital world. Last but not the least, Ishan. He is the founder of Catwalk Botanics, a non-alcoholic spirits brand redefining mindful drinking, and was featured on Shark Tank India. He's a serial entrepreneur, building culture, creativity and community into a completely new category. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ritika. One little thing, I am a founder of Unapologetic Me, which is a podcast where I feature bold voices and also bring on people who have taken certain kind of decisions and what led to their journey. So if you want to find out more about that, we'll talk about it in the networking session. For now, let's start the panel.
Thank you guys for showing up, and thank you Ekta for holding so much and holding the room already. I'm Ritika. So besides Founder Forum, I have a marketing agency. It's called The Story Fluence, wherein we create meaningful marketing for startups. The idea is performance-led execution and clear GTM strategies. The floor will be open for networking, so right? Let us get started. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, let's start at the beginning. So if you may take us back to the start, what did you think you were starting, and what were you actually starting?
So in the beginning, when I started my career as an entrepreneur, I started a publishing house, and it's a very I don't know if you guys will find interesting, but I find that time in my life very interesting. We started a publishing house. It was supposed to be part digital, part print. And after 1 year, we ran out of money. And I still remember my investor from the UK, he called me and he's like, listen, either you shut shop or you generate revenue because we can't keep going like this. And I gave myself a couple of days and I saw that I had content writers, designers, and a team of really nice social media guys, social media managers. And I just floated this idea that why don't I turn this into an agency? And by agency, like, I can just generate some revenue and retain my team and retain my day job. And that's how my journey started. So that's how a failed publishing house turned into a creative agency, a design agency, and then later on the design agency sort of helped me invest in a brand, start my own brand, which is Catwalk, which is what we're here to discuss. So yeah, it started like that, and today I'm selling non-alcoholic spirits, hopefully helping people to stay off alcohol. You want to go next?
So, currently I'm running an AI startup, but the journey has been very serendipitous. Like, this was not the intention when I started off as an entrepreneur. I think I started my entrepreneurial journey while I was still a grad student at MIT, and Akshat knows pretty well. So, while we were students, we launched this thing called MIT India Initiative, where the idea was to bring researchers and graduate students from MIT Harvard ecosystem to India and to support entrepreneurs and innovators who don't have enough resources or exposure, like people in, let's say, the IITs or IIMs, or even from the metro cities. They have a much better exposure as compared to people in the tier 2, tier 3 towns. And so that was the idea from where I started, and it was very close to my heart because I come from a tier 2 city in Uttarakhand. I come from Nainital. So this is one thing like I would like to suggest, or maybe just mention here, that I've been doing this for the last 5 to 6 years now, and I've never felt tired, because it started with a very pure mission to help the community where I came from. And so if you pick a mission that you're really close to, that's very close to your heart, you'll get the motivation automatically to do that. So that was a drive how I started, and then the MIT initiative got converted into Manush Labs, which was my first startup. I ran it for 4 years. The idea again was to support entrepreneurs from underserved regions of the country. We helped startups get connected with corporates and investors. I ran it for 4 years, and then 2 years ago I met my co-founders, like my current co-founders, who came to me for advice because they also came from small towns, and they were like, Piyush, we know that you help founders like us, can you help us? And then I saw the zeal and the passion in them, and then I kind of started working full time with them. So that's been my journey quick. I think we can get into the details in the coming questions.
Yeah. I think I'm not going to talk that much about my journey, but I'm going to try and answer your question a little more subjectively. But I really love listening to you.
Now you've said it.
But I think if I have to answer your question more subjectively, when I started, so I run 2 companies, right? So one is called Timble, which is a fintech. We work in fraud prevention for banks, loan processing, that sort of thing, using AI. The other is a water tech company. We build water filters for underserved households. So 600 rupees gets you 6,000 liters. But when I was starting the first company, which is Timble, I thought I was starting a company where we would use AI to solve problems. But realistically, I was starting a services company. So when I was starting, I was fresh out of engineering. I think like Sanya, or I think one of the people talked about it. And I didn't know the difference between a services company and a product company. And I've only seen trading my entire life, right? Trading cement or steel or cars or air tickets, etc. So I didn't know what a product company is or a services company. So I thought I was building a product, but actually I was building a services company. And I heard that in some of the answers also when people were sort of answering about they have these 3 companies or they're doing these 2-3 things. And I also wanted to do everything. So when I started the company, I wanted to use AI to help solve big problems. We used to work with Aadhaar, we used to work with the municipal corporation, we used to work mostly on government contracts. So when we worked on government contracts, we got really interesting problems, right? We worked on some solutions during COVID. We built on, if you go to buy a SIM card today, they'll ask you to blink your eyes or turn your head left or right or smile. So we built that for Aadhaar. So that's technology, one of our technologies which is in use, which you can use in daily life. And I thought I was building a product, but I was in reality building a services business, because these weren't scalable. I mean, they're scalable. Everybody uses that face likeness technology that we built, but from a revenue standpoint, as a company, it's not scalable, right? Because we built different services. We provided basically people, and we provided engineering talent, and we lent our brain. We got money for it. So that's my answer to your question. And I think a second facet of that would be that I think I thought I was starting up in terms of like building a company, and it was very fascinating. But in reality, when you're starting up, you're managing 5 people or 2 people or 3 people. You're a very small team. And so really, I think at the beginning, what you're trying to do is to create a community within your small space. And the thing that you have to evaluate at that point of time is, can you live with this community for like 2 years or 3 years or 4 years? And if you can't live with that community, just find another community or do whatever you want, but save yourself the pain. That's the most important. So you're building a team, you're building that community culture within the company. I think fundamentally that's what you're supposed to do. And the second thing is to understand exactly what are you trying to do. I didn't understand that for the longest time. I can be very happy to admit. And yeah.
So
Kept it short.
that's sort of cue to my next question. Piyush, Dhananjay and Ishan talked about humble beginnings, starting from a small town, starting with altogether a different product. So at the beginning, what gave you enough confidence to start even without the...
Should I?
Yeah.
So I think confidence comes from your upbringing mostly. That's the most important part. I grew up in a business family. I was also born in a small town called Muzaffarnagar in UP. It wasn't as beautiful as Nainital, but it's a town. And we moved to Delhi when I was 5, so grew up in Delhi. But within the 4 walls of our house, it was always a small town. You know, when I meet people and they tell me that they come from a small town, the whole family moved to a big city. Within those 4 walls, it's always a small town. You can put those 4 walls in the middle of a big city, but it operates as a small town. My parents, both my mom and dad, they started their businesses when they came to Delhi, so grew up watching them do business. But sort of got a worse business in the beginnings. I studied law, I became a lawyer, I worked as a lawyer for 3 years. But because this was something where I just saw my parents doing it, I saw that this is something that I want to do. So that's how I got into business. And I think humble beginnings don't really mean humble in financially, right? Humble beginnings I've seen, one of the most humble people I've seen, I think they have no problems financially. And I've seen really arrogant, not so financially doing well people, right? So yeah, and I'm sure you guys have a similar story.
So I think to answer the question, where did I get the confidence? I think it's some sort of there's an unwanted, incomplete desire that's there since childhood. I think when I was in school, I was like a very energetic person. I used to do all sort of things. I don't even know the reason why I was like participating in everything that came my way. So the answer is in the childhood, I guess. But once you grow old, you also kind of get some sort of a mission along with that energy. And then when you channelize that energy in a mission that you really believe in, then you get more and more energy. So I think for me, I got the confidence because of the mission that I chose. and that kind of gave me the energy to to work on them.
Piyush, can you talk a little bit about your missions in detail? What were you thinking and what was your thought process?
So the idea always was to do something that is relevant for society. Even when I went to MIT, I got this Tata Fellowship. The goal of Tata Fellowship was to provide resources to Indian students who want to do something for the underserved people in India. So I got that scholarship because they saw that, in my I don't know, in my statement of purpose and my history of work that I've done in the past, it was all tied up with benefit of society. So I think that was the intention, that whatever I do, it has to be relevant for society, and that is the core, I would say, mission that's common across all my initiatives in the past. Even now, when I do deepfake detection, it's inherently tied to how we can protect society from the evils of AI, and the fraud that that AI can cause. So yeah, there was a common theme across everything that I've done, and probably that has given me a lot of energy to do all of this.
So again, let me try and give a way to think, because I can double tap on again the answers that Piyush and Ishan gave and talk about my story, and I resonate with that very, very deeply. But maybe I can give you guys a framework you can keep in your mind and maybe think about it. Broadly, we're taught that there are two types of motivations that you have, right? There's an intrinsic motivation and there's an extrinsic motivation. तो आपने जैसे पूछा, आपने बोला कि how did you sort of decide to jump or do something even without proof? That was the question. So I think proof बहुत टाइप के हो सकते हैं. सबसे obvious proof होता है, जैसे I think ईशान ने mention किया कि पैसा नहीं है, तो पैसा is the biggest proof. जैसे आप ही की जर्नी अगर मैं लूँ, तो आपने ये फाउंडर्स फोरम किया, तो आपने शायद 2-3 इवेंट्स किए जिसमें आपने शायद टिकट्स नहीं मांगी, पैसे नहीं मांगे, उसमें आपने कुछ ऑब्जर्वेशंस करी, फिर आप आज ये होस्ट कर रहे हो एंड यू आर सीइंग, यू आस्क फॉर टिकट्स, पीपल परचेज दोस टिकट्स because they would have heard good things about the founders forum, and so now this is proof and you are going to jump and continue and move forward, right? So there's an extrinsic motivation and there's an intrinsic motivation. I think जो ईशान and पीयूष बात कर रहे थे, those are mostly intrinsic motivations. कि जैसे हो सकता है कि if you're working on a problem, then maybe that problem is inspired from your childhood, or maybe that problem is inspired from your surroundings. So when I was at IIT, as an example, when I was doing engineering, I started a company called StudyIndia.com, and we had college notes, and we were doing note sharing, and हमने कुछ 5 लाख बच्चों को ऑनबोर्ड कर लिया था. It was all fun. तो बहुत मोटिवेशन आई कि देखो बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं. We got a lot of messages and mails from people saying कि I couldn't go to college because of my family circumstances. Through these notes, I'm able to read and all of that. But similar to what Ishan had, we ran out of money, and I didn't want to make the notes paid, right? So because I didn't want to make them paid, because I was getting these mails which would make me massively emotional, I was like, I'm not going to make this paid, right? But that also meant that the platform had to be shut, right? Because we weren't earning revenue. Ads can only get you so much. Now looking back, I wonder if I should have made the notes paid. Right? I don't know. I'm still divided on that question. But जहाँ तक आपकी जो सवाल है that how do you sort of continue in the absence of proof? I would sort of like encourage everybody, and I do this to myself all the time, to sort of broaden what that proof would look like. What is that proof? Right? Is that proof money? Of course, most important. You have for all of these lights, for this AC, for everything, you need money. Just I think Pankaj was also talking about, for a franchisee partner, you need money. That's valid. Maybe your proof comes from the problem that you're solving and the people that you're able to impact, and I think that broadly keeps you going, right? So and I have examples of that, how I have successful examples of that now, but I've also had massively unsuccessful examples. I started a company called Siren, which is what Blinkit is doing right now. If you press a button, you get ambulances. The same problem that they're having is the same problem that we had, which is that people don't remember to use an app when you need an ambulance. But at the same time, we got a lot of proof. Yeah, there were thousands of people that got ambulances because if I ask, if does anybody know what the ambulance number is? Like 100 number police का, what is the ambulance number? 108 पे आप अगर कॉल करोगे अभी तो शायद मिले ना, but 102 है broadband. So you don't remember it, right? So you get motivation, but that's extrinsic or intrinsic. And I'd recommend that अगर आपको proof चाहिए तो आप वैसे देखें.
I'll just add one more thing to this, to what Dhananjay is saying. I think for me, what has worked is authenticity. So in whatever I do, I always ask this question whether I really want to do this and whether I'm faking it. Because there are a lot of times in the past when I was being inauthentic to myself and I could realize it. And that's when I failed terribly. So whenever you like want to do something, just ask, do you really want to do it? Like, does it make sense? Is there a purpose behind it? Or are you just doing it because, let's say you saw some friends or you got inspired from somebody which was very temporary? So there has to be an element of authenticity and also a purpose attached to it. I mean, I know that I'm not a very successful person and I'm still kind of chasing a dream, but
We're all doing that.
yeah, I mean, but something that has always kept me on track is this word authenticity. So I'll keep on repeating it because it's very important. So just ask yourself that deep question, whether you're being true to yourself or you're just kind of being kind of pushed by the circumstances or by the people around you, and you're taking a decision or you're doing something just to show it to others, or there's an element of show off attached to it. Even if you start small, there has to be some truth to it. Yeah.
So I'm going to move to a different sort of question. So you all came in with strong backgrounds. Harvard, MIT, Berkeley. What did your pedigree show up? How did your pedigree show up in early days? Did it open doors for you or did it add pressure to you?
So pedigree is, I'll tell you what happens. When you start your journey, especially as an entrepreneur, while going to a good college gives you a lot of exposure, but if your idea is not good, and both of you will agree that if your idea is not good, nobody will care which college you went to, right? Your idea should resonate with people. It does put a lot of pressure on you. I've heard MIT and you also went to a great college. But I'm sure it puts a lot of pressure. Look, for me, I went to Berkeley College of Music. मैंने वहाँ music पढ़ा था. मैं Amity Law School से मैंने law करा था. But when I go in a meeting, when I'm talking to people, I think after a point, your passion for your product, for the problem you're solving, that's all that matters, right? Because nobody is going to give you money, nobody is going to buy your product because you went to a great college. And so don't let that put any sort of pressure on you. Just create a good product. Make sure your product is solving a problem. I know you've heard this in hundreds of Instagram reels that your product is supposed to solve a problem, otherwise it's not going to take you anywhere, but it is important. Even if it's a sort of problem that only you encountered. We live in a country with 1.5 billion people, right? So if you've encountered a problem, chances are there are millions others who have the same problem. So work around it and let that sort of drive you every day.
So I think the question is around whether the pedigree helped me in whatever I'm doing, whether it opened doors. The answer is yes, it did. But I would say the key thing here is signal value. So for me, my pedigree created that signal value for me. So like I'll be honest, when I went to the investors for this startup, they invested in me because they saw that I'm from MIT, So I mean, they did not invest in me because I'm from MIT. They had a meeting with me, the first meeting, because they saw the pedigree. But after that, it was of course the product, the team, the skill set, and everything else. So here, coming back to signal value, so you can create that signal value either through pedigree or through something else. Sometimes it even works for people who have a lot of money. So if you have generational wealth, through that money you can create a strong network, and through that network you can make something work. Another example is, let's say if you are in a good job, if you are let's say surrounded by highly intellectual people, that can also create a good signal value for you, because you can use that sort of a network to your leverage. So yeah, it's all about signal value, and it's upon you how you create that. I kind of used my pedigree or my college to do that, but you have to discover it yourself, like what all you have going on in your life that you can leverage to make the first step, and that can open doors for you.
Piyush, did it add pressure to you as well?
No, not at all. I mean, I've always somehow used it to my favor, because I come from a not so privileged family background. So I knew that this is all I have. So I've used it to my favor. I've used it very strategically. I know that I have an unfair advantage when I go to investor meetings, and I say that like these Ivy League and all these tags do work. So there's no denying that fact. But again, if you don't have this, you have something else. You just have to figure it out what you have. If you don't have, maybe you have to create some sort of signal value. Because see, the truth is, it's a very competitive world out there. So even if you go to fundraise, there are like 100 more other startups who are working on the exact same idea or similar ideas. So why would anybody listen to you? Initially, of course, if you don't have a product. So what is that thing that gives you some sort of an edge? So think about it, like work towards it, create some sort of a network, and yeah, I think that's what I would encourage you to do.
ब्रॉडली देखिए, आप अभी मैम ने पूछा कि पेडिग्री के बारे में आप बताइए कि क्या उससे प्रेशर बनता है या क्या उससे आपको फायदा होता है। मैं पेडिग्री के बारे में छोड़ो, आप प्रिविलेज के बारे में बात करो। तो प्रिविलेज इज अ फंक्शन ऑफ एग्जीक्यूशन एंड ब्लेसिंग्स। ये दो कंपोनेंट है प्रिविलेज के। अब वो प्रिविलेज आपका पेडिग्री में शो अप कर सकता है, वो आपके काम में शो अप कर सकता है, वो आपके वेल्थ में शो अप कर सकता है, वो आपके कार्मिक लाइफ साइकिल में शो अप कर सकता है, बट इट्स अ फंक्शन ऑफ एग्जीक्यूशन एंड ब्लेसिंग्स। ठीक है, तो आप वो शायद एक और शॉट निकाल रहे हैं, तो आई टेक अ ड्रामेटिक पॉज।
Dramatic pause. Let me appreciate my girls.
Yeah.
These 3 girls are running our cafe, and we are too focused to bring girls on the board in our operations.
Okay, so just finishing that off. So the reason why I don't talk about pedigree but privilege is because if you think about privilege, then everybody has privilege. Right? The mere fact that you are sitting here, you have privilege in your life. आप एक सैटरडे को अफोर्ड कर सकते हो एक कैफे में आके बैठ के 3 लड़कों को सुनने का, इट्स अ प्रिविलेज, नो मैटर व्हाट योर पेडिग्री इज, राइट? द फैक्ट दैट यू आर बोर्न विद limbs and like limited disabilities or no disabilities is a privilege. So the way to think about that is think about where you are executing in life. So let's say if somebody goes to a good college, like let's say again I'll pick on Sanya. So Sanya went to IIT Delhi. So IIT Delhi के लिए आपको पढ़ना तो पड़ेगा, आपको IIT का पेपर देना पड़ेगा, एग्जीक्यूट करना पड़ेगा, बट ब्लेसिंग्स भी लगेंगी। तो आई ऑल्सो वेंट टू IIT। अब वो मैं पेपर के दिन पे अगर मेरे से कोई गलत बबल हो जाता तो मेरी रैंक 400 आई, वो 4000 हो जाती, 40000 हो जाती। अब that doesn't mean I'm dumb, but that means maybe I executed wrong, और maybe that day मैंने आशीर्वाद नहीं लिया, तो हो सकता है शायद उसके कारण। So you have to think about that when you're working also, like if you're let's say starting a startup, like what the work Piyush is doing or Ishan, or even the work that I'm trying to do, of course your pedigree does show up to get to that meeting, but like Piyush was talking about right now, his pedigree would have gotten that first meeting, but then it has to be the results that he's delivering, right? So there is also pressure that even privilege can create, right? So like for instance, I can go to the best colleges in the world, but that also means that I can also feel many a times, and I do, am I actually leveraging the network that I have to the best ability of my startup or to the best ability of my team? Right? There are many a times where I feel like I'm underperforming to my potential, right? And the truth is that for everybody who has privilege, like everybody sitting in this room, you can underperform to your potential and still live a very great life, right? You can never truly perform to your potential that you believe, and you can still live a fantastic life. That's the reality. So you have to think about where that execution shows up. You have to think about where that blessings show up, and maximize for both. तो अगर आप आशीर्वाद ले सकते हो अपने पेरेंट्स का जरूर आशीर्वाद लो. It's a no-brainer. आप जहाँ जहाँ एग्जीक्यूट करना चाहते हो आप एग्जीक्यूशन पे फोकस रहो, फिर आप रील्स मत देखो, राइट? अब उसका पेडिग्री से कोई लेना देना नहीं है. You can go to a Stanford or an MIT like servant and still spend all day looking at reels. तो आपकी पेडिग्री का क्या फायदा, राइट? तो आप अपनी लाइफ में सोचो कि वो पेडिग्री नहीं प्रिविलेज है, और वो प्रिविलेज कहाँ कहाँ है, एंड उसको आप फिर यूज कैसे कर रहे हो.
One thing I'll add to that is where I also feel what good pedigree, or not just good pedigree, not just good college name, but good education does to you. No matter what you're doing, business, job, you know that you have your education to fall back on. If something goes down south, you will always pick yourself up because you have a degree, you went to a good college, a great name, anybody will give you a job, and you will be able to do what is the most important thing as a human being, keeping the lights on. So, good pedigree, good education gives you a lot of things, opens doors for you, but one of the most important things it does to you is it gives you a lot of confidence. It gives you confidence.
Yeah, up to that. Or probably have some desire to be like that. So, under that context, I would like to say, if you really want to create a business or become an entrepreneur, just create something. If you have a pedigree, good for you, use it to your favor. If you don't have it, it doesn't matter too much.
Sorry, okay, and I know this is not an argument panel, that's why I'm not trying to say anything, but I'm just saying that while I agree with you, you don't need education, college education, but when we are on LinkedIn, when we post a new job and we get applications, right, of people applying for a job with us, we do read where they went to college, school, right? So I'm saying that yes, you don't need MIT, but you need to go to college. You need to get your education. Education should never be underplayed, right? Get your master's, get your graduation degree, because not just the curriculum that you're learning there, it's meeting people. It does so much for your life. That's the first place you learn how to work hard, right? We were discussing, Sanya and I were discussing that one of the most important skills that you need to acquire, be it in school, be it in college, be it in your first job, before you become an entrepreneur, is to learn how to work hard, how to slog. And I think education here, I think what is something important here?
I think education versus college degree. This is what we are arguing about, right?
Skills important है. Skills लेना educated लोगों के लिए भी important है, right? कि अगर आप let's say I became a lawyer, I studied music, I studied art, but today also I keep picking up these small courses to learn something new that helps me. But education, yeah. Just for example, I was talking to somebody who went to who's right now studying in IIM Lucknow, and I was telling her that one of the most beautiful things when you get into an IIM for your MBA. Today most founders are like MBA is not important, right? MBA की जरूरत नहीं है. But वो जो वहाँ पे पता क्या सबसे बड़ी क्या आपको एक value add मिलता है, that you are now among 50 other really smart brains who will now go on in their life and achieve a lot of great things, and you will be in their network, and they will open doors for you 20 years from now, 15 years from now. जब आपको आपकी कंपनी के लिए कुछ चाहिए होगा, आप MIT गए, राइट? आप वहाँ पे 50-100 लोगों से और मिले. अब क्योंकि बाकी लोग भी स्मार्ट थे, तो आज वो भी अच्छी जगह पहुँच जाएंगे अगले 10 साल में. एंड तब वो नेटवर्क आपके पास होना, उसका एक्सेस होना,
being an alumni of a good college, good educational institute, that is priceless. Curriculum तो भूल जाओगे ना.
Ishan, the point is, I also said it initially. It did open doors for me. And it's a very competitive world, so you are like, if you have an idea, there are 100 other people who have the same idea, and you want to be heard.
Yeah.
So college degree does open that. But the point here is, if you don't have that, now what? So there are two options. One, you kind of study for a few years, let's say for CAT, you spend 2-3 years preparing for it, then you go to an MBA 2 more years. So it takes around 4 to 5 years on an average. In those 5 years, instead of going towards that direction, which is very helpful probably,
Yeah.
but you can also try to build something for those 5 years, and that might also become a success, you know.
बट अगर वो नहीं काम करा तो कम से कम आपको नौकरी तो मिल जाएगी उसके बाद. अगर आपके पास एक अच्छा, मैं नहीं कहता कि कैट से एमबीए करो, कहीं से भी है, मतलब आप कहीं से भी एमबीए करो, अच्छे स्कूल्स हैं, बहुत इंडिया में स्कूल्स हैं. सो
Good discussion. Let's call it good discussion. But I think pedigree definitely does open doors, but it should not limit you. So that's the idea. That's the summary here.
Yeah. Okay, of course.
So now from the beginnings, let's move to the middle parts. So every long journey has a middle, not the exciting part, not a visible success, and a part where most of the people leave. So we're going to move to that part. So what did the middle of your journey look like when momentum slowed and certainty disappeared? So let's start with you, Dhananjay. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, interesting question. So I think again, I don't really know if I'm qualified to answer that. The reason for that is because hindsight is 20/20. आपको पीछे जाके ही पता चलता है कि आपका मिडिल पार्ट कौन सा था, आपका स्टार्टिंग कौन सा था, आपका एंड कौन सा था. गालिब या फैज का शायद कोई एक बड़ा कपलेट है, मेरे स्वामी जी सुनाते थे कि जिंदगी नहीं, क्या कहते, शाम जब खत्म होने को आई तो महफिल में रंग आया, जिंदगी जब खत्म होने को आई तो जीने का ढंग आया, समथिंग लाइक दैट. एंड सो यू डोंट रियली नो when I don't know when is my middle, when is my start, when is my end. I interned at Amazon in Seattle and in the middle of my MBA, and वहाँ पे तो famously बोला जाता है every day is day 0 या every day is day 1, कि आप तो शुरू ही बच्चे से कर रहे हो as a child. So but to your question, when you're talking about like when things slow down, I think the key framework or the key sort of way of thinking जो मैं शायद audience के साथ share करना चाहूँगा is to try and understand the difference between a symptom and an illness. तो आपको बुखार होता है, बुखार के बहुत कारण हो सकते हैं. आपके बुखार का कारण हो सकता है वायरल फीवर, डेंगू, लिवर सिरोसिस, लंग इश्यूज, व्हाटएवर, बहुत कारण हो सकते हैं. तो मान लीजिए आप अगर बढ़ नहीं रहे, तो क्यों नहीं बढ़ रहे, एंड उसमें जितना आप ऑनेस्ट होंगे, ना बढ़ना तो आपका एक सिम्टम है. बीमारी कुछ और है. बीमारी इज नॉट दैट यू आर नॉट गेटिंग ग्रोथ, राइट? बीमारी इज समथिंग एल्स ऑल टुगेदर. So for instance, it's possible that you might have hired people who might be sick of intake. माने वो आपको yes sir करके you might feel like they're great, but actually शायद वो काम कुछ नहीं कर रहे, या आपको दिख नहीं रहा, or maybe they're not capable. Maybe it's a fish trying to climb a tree. So all I'm just trying to say is that I think to answer your question, how do you sort of proceed? The first thing I would do is just be honest to yourself and try and see कि actual बीमारी क्या है. अगर आप वो आइडेंटिफाई कर लेंगे तो आप पुश फॉरवर्ड कर सकते हैं. एंड द अदर एलिमेंट दैट आई वुड सॉर्ट ऑफ से इज दैट जो ये जैसे आई थिंक पीयूष ने बात करी या ईशान ने बात करी थी, वाज अबाउट रेजिलियंस, कि आपको रेजिलियंस होना चाहिए. मैं थोड़ा सा आपको शायद रेजिलियंस की थोड़ी सी परिभाषा ट्राई टू गिव अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ अ डेफिनेशन टू रेजिलियंस. वन ऑफ माय प्रोफेसर्स coined it very nicely. He said that resilience is how fast you can get back up after being thrown down, after being put down. तो ये अगर आप entrepreneurship देखें, उसमें रोज मेरे को 10 बार ना सुनने को मिलता है. चाहे मैं सक्सेसफुल हूँ, चाहे मेरे 20, 30, 40, 100 करोड़ का रेवेन्यू है, which touchwood with God's grace अपना we have those problems. But the point is, I still hear no on a daily basis, right? And does that mean that I accept that no? Does that mean I'm at the start of my journey? Am I at the middle of my journey? Am I at the end of my journey? Can you say Apple is at the end of its journey? If you go and speak to the people at Apple, they say, "यार हम तो अभी शुरू हुए हैं." Right? So it really depends on your mindset. Being honest at just answering the right problems, asking the right questions. Bas.
So I want to talk about two things. I think it kind of resonates with what Dhananjay has already spoken about. First is bias to action. So if you feel stuck or if you think growth is not happening, just act. Don't think about it. Don't get in the what is it called? Paralysis. Paralysis. So bias to action. Just act. And second thing is also don't act madly. There has to be a meditative process. So there's a practical tool which I use. I journal a lot. So if you write it down on a piece of paper, if you spend 15, 20, half an hour every day writing, your thoughts will get clear. Some people do it through meditation, some people do it through, I don't know, there are other things also. But meditation, either through journaling or some way in which you clear your head and you understand the core of the problem by kind of internalizing it. And second thing, bias to action. So just act towards it, talk to people, do something about it, write cold emails, reach out to people in your network, talk to mentors, whatever. There can be 100 other ways. So yeah, I'll keep it short. Bias to action, and there has to be some sort of a meditative angle to it.
Can you just go through your question again? Because I think maybe Puliyam or
So my question was around the middles. What did the middle of your journey look like when momentum slowed and certainty disappeared?
So momentum. Okay, so I don't know how I could connect the middle of a journey with momentum being slow and the certainty disappearing. But I'll tell you something that I feel, and both of them gave very good answers. So I think I hope I can match up to something. But so there's a Chinese curse which loosely translates to "May you live in interesting times." What the Chinese are trying to say is that when you are living in interesting times, you're essentially cursed, and you're blessed when you're, with thanks to meditation and like ease of business and all those things, that you are at peace. That is, peace is the blessing here, right? Beginning, middle, end, while the journey is on, till you have sold your business, made your money, and retired, there is no peace. Right? Peace is something, middle or beginning of the journey. I feel that every morning, yes, we need to get up, we need to hear no's from most of the people that we reach out to, but we need to find peace within. So if you believe in a higher power, if you believe in God, you pray, you meditate, whatever you do, for me, I think I am still in the middle. And some days I feel like I'm just beaten. And every day is different. But to deal with that, you need to be at peace with yourself. If you can find peace, I think middle, beginning, end matter नहीं करेगा. हाँ, जिस दिन कंपनी बेच देंगे, अपना पैसा कमा लेंगे, रिटायर करेंगे, वो end पता है क्या है. Beginning और middle मुझे नहीं पता है क्या है.
We get a lot of co-founder questions. So I just want to ask a question around that. How did your co-founder relationship change over time? And what did the long game demand from those relationships?
Can we actually start from when did you realize that you wanted a co-founder?
Yeah, sure.
And then how
Yeah,
did you
sure.
start?
So when my failed publishing startup turned into an agency, my hunt for a product of my own, for a brand of my own, started on that day itself. because I wanted to go back on the brand side. While running an agency is a lot of fun, but I always wanted to have a brand of my own, like most of us here, right? In their case, they would say product of their own. I just say brand of my own because I'm a branding person, right? So during my agency journey, I met this guy as a client. His name is Amir, who is now my co-founder. He had multiple projects going on. He hired us for branding, design, marketing. During that, I figured that to be able to find the right co-founder, to have my own brand, that person needs to be able to do something that I can't do. For sure, that's the biggest prerequisite to get yourself a co-founder. He was from the operation side, manufacturing side, distribution, and I was all branding, marketing, creative things. And I knew that I suck at what he does, and he sucks at what I do. So that was clear. And having a co-founder is very important. It can be a friend, it can be a family member, that just depends on that one simple thing. If both of you have different expertise, if you do your own jobs, you can work together. So for me, the co-founder that I have today, he does all those things that I'm not good at. And I do all those things that he's not good at. So that also sort of gives you mutual respect for each other, for what we do. Otherwise, there will be judgment from the other side, and that judgment can create conflict. And the only thing you want is to not have conflict with your co-founder. Every day, yes, there will be difference of opinion, but you don't want conflict.
I'll start with my personal experience with co-founders. So my first company, when I started, I had like two close friends who started with me. They were not co-founders, but they were almost acting like co-founders with me. Like on paper, I was the only founder, but they were working with me day and night like co-founders. And they worked with me for the first couple of years when I was like growing at a very fast pace. And then somewhere I realized that I don't need them, I can manage it. So I let them go. Like I did not like fire them, but somehow I did not give them the freedom or the whatever they desired. They did not get it, so kind of I let them go. And I realized that now I realize in hindsight, the decline came because I let those people go. And I thought that I can do it all by myself. So that was the biggest realization through my first startup, which I only realized it after 4 years, that when you have people around you, so 1 + 1 is not 2, it becomes 11. So the force multiplies significantly when you have people who actually sync with you and who complement your energy. So never let people go who are actually helping you and who you sync with. And right now in my current startup, I have co-founders. We have complementary skill sets, and this is much better than as compared to when I was a solo founder. So I like versus being solo founder versus being a co-founder with somebody else, I'll pick being a co-founder every single day. So that is number one. Number two, there has to be a match of values. That is very important. When I say pick co-founders, just don't pick people randomly because you need it. So inherent values have to match. You have, like for me, honesty is a very core value. So that's what I see, like high integrity, high intelligence. This is also what Naval Ravikant talks about. So when you pick your co-founders, you get 3 things: high integrity, high intelligence, and high energy. And fortunately, I have found people like that in my current startup. And I think the previous startup did not work out so well because I did not have such people with me. So yeah, to give a short answer, having co-founders always works, and they have to match your values.
Yeah, I'll take a step back. I think which is what I've been trying to do this entire time. So I don't know if it's working or not, but I'll because these guys are really good at answering, right? So I also wonder like ईशान कि मैं क्या ऐड कर सकूं?
Humility है यार.
नहीं क्या है? देखिए को मेरे मानने में को फाउंडर एक खिताब है, ठीक है, खिताब, it's a position, it's a title. I remember मैं business school में था and at Wharton and हमारे क्लास में केस स्टडी हो रही थी on a company called वावा, WAWA. It's over a 200-year-old company. 200 साल की कंपनीज आपको बहुत रेयर मिलेंगी, right? It's over a 200-year-old company and apparently at one point of time Abraham Lincoln also worked at Wawa, okay? Who then later on became the president of the US. अब मुझे पता नहीं if this is true or not, but maybe you can Google it and find out. So the number one thing that guy told us in the class, and we said that, sir, how have you survived 200 years? Because nations don't survive 200 years. Forget a company. Nations don't survive 200 years. And if you look at even family businesses, like I dare you to think about one family business that has survived 200 years, right? You can only think about a group called the Rothschild group, but that also hasn't technically survived 200 years. Okay, so Baba. So he said that what we try to do is that we try to create ownership at an employee level. So technically they're all co-founders. Technically they're not co-founders. I think it's wrong, or it's a misnomer, or I think it's sort of an incomplete way of thinking to differentiate between a co-founder versus a CXO versus a middle management versus an employee. And I'm not trying to be idealistic, right? Because I gave you an example of something where this actually works. I'm not saying it works with me, but I've seen it work. Now, what I'm just trying to say is that how do you create that ownership mentality? And if you have to, and if you can find people like, you know what Piyush was trying to say with Naval Ravikant and like high energy, high intelligence, high integrity, I think that is something that you should search for in every person in your team, right? And if you search for that in every person of your team, you're going to get a standout team. You're going to get a fabulous team, right? And that's what you have to search. Now, if you don't hire your salesperson, who's technically not your co-founder, with that same mentality, you're going to hire somebody who's not fit for the job. And if you do that, then no matter how good your co-founder is, you're going to die. Right? You're going to die. Whether your co-founder has complementary skills, whatever it is, daily basis पे तो आपकी टीम ने काम करना है. मेरे ऑफिस में अभी my team is working. Right? We work Monday to Saturday. Right now my team is working while I am doing this bhashan. Right? Now I can trust my team. Right? I mean, I had a conversation with Piyush right now before this entire thing started, and he said something that, you know, we were in touch. I think my team and his team was in touch about something that we were trying to do together. And I just called somebody up, and that guy is like an NSUT masters educated, well-meaning person. I called him, I said, ye karna hai, and now I think his team and my team are talking about something. I have no idea when he came into office. I have no idea when he's going to leave office. But I know he has ownership of his product. Right? He will get his salary on time. That's my responsibility towards him. And everybody in our team also knows, whoever is eligible for ESOPs knows that they will get ESOPs. Whoever is eligible for raises know they will get raises. That's my commitment to them. Their commitment to me is, again, high energy, high integrity, and high excellence of brain. Right? So, I think that's a way to think about it. आप अपने co-founder पे limit अगर कर रहे हो तो आप बहुत incomplete सोच रहे हो, बहुत छोटी सोच है. Yeah.
When you talk about team members, तो हर एक का एक line of work है, एक sense of responsibility है. When we talk about co-founder, it's like bearing the whole risk of the business, right?
Sharing the risk with you.
Right. So there's a different vision and there's a different interest involved.
Yeah.
देखिए, I would agree, but I would also slightly disagree. देखिए, if you have, let's say, somebody working in your team, right? That person joined your team, right? And that person has a family to support. I don't think there's any bigger risk that a man or a woman can take. Okay, I got married last year. You know, I love my wife, and you know, hopefully in the future we have, you know, children and all of that. Dude, I'm spending 8 to 9 to 10 to 12 hours at a single workplace, away from my family, and I'm doing all of that to support my family. That's my number one duty. And if somebody is joining your company, of course, that person is going to get money at the end of it. There is a less, you can say that there is a different risk, but to say that there is, but to equate that risk and to say a co-founder risk is higher, I feel, in my opinion, is misplaced. Simply because a co-founder, you know, sure, it might be handling multiple functions at the same time, but can that not also be something which can be drilled down to your team?
Yeah.
If you have to think about, so I'll just like maybe clarify. The best functioning teams, and I'm not saying my team is the best functioning team, I'm trying to create a team like that. But the best functioning teams are where there is ownership at every level. Now, if you think about the risk that an employee is taking, he's joining, you know, the number one reason that people switch into our company, number one reason that I've heard people leave companies is not getting salary on time. The number one reason, either not getting salary on time or harassment at the workplace. These are the two fundamental reasons that I've heard the most. The other one being that मेरे को salary hike चाहिए, मेरे को कुछ नया करना है. But the two broad reasons that I've generally heard is either harassment at the workplace or it is not getting salary on time. Now, that person took a risk joining a particular workplace, and that risk didn't pay off. So he's now finding something. Co-founders also have that risk. They have different risks.
But I think I'm going to answer your question.
Yeah.
So, Ekta, let's firstly switch on the mic.
So, firstly, Ekta, let's, for everybody's, sort of give a context to this conversation. One is entrepreneurship, right? Which goes both ways, startup or business. Okay? When you're running a startup, the co-founder, of course, brings a lot of risk with him. He shares the risk with you. But there are, most times, co-founders are also co-investors, right? They put a lot of money with you. Like, for example, my co-founder has put equal amount of money that I have put in my company. Having your skin in the game, Dhananjay, is a different risk altogether. If I have put 50 lakhs in my brand and he's put 50 lakhs, he's gonna wake up in the morning. He's not gonna answer somebody's call saying कि भाई तुम्हारे को मैं 20% hike दूंगा, right?
I'm talking about something else.
So let me complete. So what happens is that when you run a company like a startup, I don't run my company like a startup. Okay, while I am a new category, nobody else was doing this per se, but I like to look at it as a business, wherein I will make money, I will spend money. So I need somebody with me who can mitigate the risk, who can cut my losses, right? Who will share the investment, and then further on, if God is not kind, then share the losses as well. Yeah, you can.
Sure. Again, so I think God's always kind. If something doesn't work out, it wasn't in. Yeah, it was good actually that it worked out.
Protection, not rejection.
It's protection, not rejection. See, I think I have done both, and both of my companies have different formats. At Timble, I'm a solo founder, and at Detoxify, I have a co-founder. My co-founder is actually the head of mechanical engineering at MIT, so much smarter guy than me. Rohit Kandik.
I think he's a Tata.
He's a Tata professor, yeah, at MIT. Yeah. So he's my co-founder. But I'll actually try and. What I was trying to say, maybe that I think I didn't do a good enough job of saying it, and maybe I think Ekta had a similar question. देखिए, आप अगर अपने स्टार्टअप में, if you are doing a good job of ownership, आप अपने स्टार्टअप में बोलिए सर, ठीक है, हम एक राउंड खोल रहे हैं ESOPs के लिए, कौन पैसे लगाना चाहता है? आप ट्राई करो, and if you are getting 10, 20, 30% of your staff saying ठीक है सर हम 50 लाख तो नहीं लगा सकते हमारे पास नहीं है हम 1 लाख रुपए लगा सकते हैं, that itself should be a good enough signal to you. Now अब आप जो बात कर रहे हो about putting 50 lakhs or about sharing the equal burden of risk, that is a function of privilege in my opinion. मेरे पास for instance my father has a business of his own, so he invested in me and he invested in the company. So of course my risks are higher from a monetary perspective, but that is also a function of my privilege. That's a function of who I am, where I am, मेरा life cycle क्या है, where am I born into, what is my karmic this thing. That doesn't mean that that person is not willing to take risk. You have to think about what that. Now I'll tell you, at Detoxify, at the water work that we do, my researchers, there's one researcher I have with a PhD from IIT Kanpur. We pay him, let's say, X lakh rupees a year. If I tell him that boss, Ashwini is his name, Dr. Ashwini, मैं बोलूँगा यार अश्विनी इन्वेस्ट कर डिटॉक्सिफाई में, वो करेगा इन्वेस्ट। अब वो मैं उसको ऑप्शन दे रहा हूँ नहीं दे रहा हूँ वो मेरे ऊपर है। So all I'm just trying to say is that co-founders, great. I'm not trying to say that their risks are not there. I have 2 co-founders at Detoxify.
Yeah.
We're a team of 3, like me, Ishan and Professor Kane. We're 3 people, all with grade A degrees, all with grade A privilege, all with grade A, B, C, D, everything. And at Timble, I'm a solo founder. I had a founder in the past also. So it is important. No, I think the question was more about like when do you decide to have a co-founder?
And the skill set, what really makes for a good co-founder.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe you can say that maybe I wasn't lucky at Timble to get a good co-founder.
You weren't lucky.
Maybe, or maybe I still have another one. Who knows, right? I might get the start of my journey.
I think just to underline this, I think the context is a 0 to 1 journey for the people sitting here. And from that context, if you're just starting out, if you have an idea and you are trying to do something, create a venture, I think the common opinion is try to find someone with complementary skill sets, preferably a co-founder. So Dhananjay, not to take anything away from what you said, I think the crowd here is
sure.
0 to 1, and what you're talking about is probably when you are, let's say, slightly ahead in the journey.
Sure.
So I think it's about having skill in the game. Can we do questions at the end? Sorry.
Because the continuation of the topic that
Yeah,
you
very
said.
quickly.
Yeah, so basically when you are starting, suppose you say like, okay, I will have 2 co-founders, right? But then everyone who is coming as a co-founder, they think of equity, correct? So in the starting, how will you define like how much equity each one will hold? Because you don't know how much who is contributing, right? So the dilemma is always like, okay, having a co-founder then letting him know like, okay, this much equity, but he's not working. So how to decide that thing initially itself?
I have a very well prepared templatized answer for this. Most of the time, like almost always, just give equal equity to everyone. If they don't deserve equal equity, I think, in my opinion, they don't deserve to be a co-founder. It keeps things simple, it keeps things very efficient, and it has, like, if everybody has equal skin in the game, the machine moves much faster and more efficiently. This is my opinion. If you think you will give them 5%, 10%, then actually they are not co-founders. Just give them ESOP and hire them. Why do you want them to be a co-founder?
How to know in the initial stage
I'm
whether
sorry.
they continue or not?
I'm
So there are legal tools for that. There's a concept called vesting. So there's a vesting period. You give them their equity over, let's say, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. If they leave after 1 year, they'll get only a small fraction.
But
of the-
Ayush, we wasted another year for that, right? We are investing somebody's time. See, giving money is something different. But हम अपना टाइम भी तो इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं ना, साथ में उस बंदे पे उससे उम्मीद लगा रहे हैं कि ये कुछ करेगा. आई एम नॉट कीपिंग लाइक 3-4 co-founders, जो बेस्ट परफॉर्म करेगा उसको आगे चलाऊंगा. सी, मेरे को अगर मैं आपके साथ अगर बिजनेस कर रहा हूँ, मुझे 1 साल बाद पता लगेगा कि मैं आपसे सिनर्जाइज कैसे कर पाया. मे बी यू आर बेस्ट एट व्हाट यू आर डूइंग, आई एम डूइंग माय बेस्ट. बट इन द एंड 1 साल बाद अगर हम सिनर्जाइज ही नहीं कर पा रहे, वी आर नॉट कमिंग ऑन द सेम पेज, हम किसी बात पे See, it's not about maturity, it's about your own nature as well. मुझे कैसे पता लगेगा कि वो मेरे लिए बेस्ट फिट है?
नहीं तो सर, अगर आप उसको 5% 10 ये माइनर इक्विटी दे दो ना, तो वो आपको फिर कभी पता लगेगा भी नहीं।
आयुष में इक्विटी में आ ही नहीं रहा अभी, मेरा क्वेश्चन ही ऑल टुगेदर डिफरेंट है यहाँ। मैं तो आपने वेस्टिंग कह दिया, मैंने कहा ठीक है 1 साल काम करके देखते हैं, 1 साल बाद डिसाइड करेंगे क्या करना है साथ में। बट द पॉइंट इज हमने 1 साल तो वेस्ट कर दिया ना, हमने 1 साल अपनी लाइफ को सिनर्जाइज। अच्छा 1 साल के इट्स नॉट ओनली अबाउट 1 ईयर टाइम वेस्टेड, इट्स अबाउट कि अब आप नेक्स्ट स्टेप लेते हुए सोचोगे एक बार कि यार मुझे अब एक और को फाउंडर को एक साथ टेस्ट करना है या नहीं करना।
नहीं तो इस केस में आप उसे कम इक्विटी दो, बराबर इक्विटी दो, वो तो इट्स रिगार्डलेस ऑफ दैट थिंग, राइट?
Can I
Maybe
answer
the
that?
question is about equity distribution.
Let me really conclude this and then we get to questions later. Yeah, let me just put an end to this topic with the most practical standpoint I can tell you.
Right.
Look, when you're starting, okay, you're gonna need money. Your co-founder first and foremost needs to bring in money. Okay, if they're not bringing in any money, then they need to bring in something which will make you save money.
Like,
Okay, like for example, or raise money for that matter, like a skill set, right? Like a skill set. For example, I have a product, like for example, I'm making a dating app. Okay, I am a branding marketing guy. I can make a dating app, but I need a CTO. A CTO whose next 5 years value will be somewhere around 1 crore, right? So I give him 50% of the company. Be my CTO. You're not giving anything, but for the next 5 years you're going to work for me. However, I still tell you, get them to invest something. If they have the skin in the game, that's a co-founder. Even what Dhananjay said, he said that later on you can just tell your people, whoever you find 5 years later in your journey, आपके वाले सवाल नहीं है, 5 साल बाद क्या होता है, एक co-founder ज्वाइन हो जाता है। बहुत बार ऐसा होता है, 5 साल के बाद एक co-founder ज्वाइन करता है। एक जिनीस कॉकटेल्स के नाम से एक बेवरेजेस है, उन्होंने 3-4 साल के बाद जाके एक सेल्स वाले बंदे को co-founder बनाया था, right? But he also invested. So let the first precursor for a co-founder be somebody who invests in your company, puts something in your company, because that's their first show of faith. उसके बाद उनका skill set, what they're bringing, something complementary to your skill set, and then so on and so forth. And now
Before we move to individual questions, we'll keep that very quick. So is balance something you find, or something you always keep renegotiating in this journey?
As I said in the beginning of this talk, that it's very important to find peace, right? And peace can come from different directions, just like chaos can come from different directions. So yes, finding balance is also a constant battle. Finding time for yourself, finding time for God, finding time for just investing in your physical and mental health, with your family. All those things are important. If you will invest in just business, the other day I was talking to somebody and he was saying that यार तुम सुबह कैसे जिम चले जाते हो? मैं तो सुबह उठते ही काम होता है, काम शुरू कर देता हूँ. And he was like, अच्छा तुम्हारी ना शादी नहीं है, तुम्हारे बच्चे नहीं है, इसलिए तुमको ना रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं है, तो तुम्हारा पहला थॉट होता है कि मैं जिम चला जाता हूँ. I said मैं आपको कह रहा हूँ कि आप सुबह एक्सरसाइज करो अपने बच्चों के लिए, क्योंकि they need their father to live longer. So invest in balance. Investing in balance. मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ, your body is the biggest gift that you have, and the best thing to achieve balance in your life is to invest, work out, put your body into any sort of exercising, spend time with your family, use all these things as stress busters. Otherwise you will burn out, otherwise you will fall sick, and then सब यहीं पे रह जाएगा. जैसे वो बड़े लोग बोलते हैं ना, कि that सब यहीं पे रह जाएगा. I'll give you a brief example. My very close friend, I lost him in 2020. Very hard-working guy. सुबह से लेके शाम तक दुकान पे जाना, बैठना, इतनी मेहनत करना. He died in a bike accident. And that's when I realized, when I lost my closest friend, that वो इतनी मेहनत करता था और सब यहीं रह गया. Right? So please, ये थोड़ा डार्क हो गया, but I'm still trying to tell you that please invest in balance. Please invest in your physical health and mental health.
I was talking about the balance. So, is the balance something you found, or are you trying to find, or do you keep renegotiating it between all of this juggle?
Balance in the sense, I would say, Emotional balance,
Work-life balance, emotional balance, or physical balance.
All kind of balance.
All kind of balances in your life.
Balance, right?
Okay. So I think looking at the audience here, they are from like very different age groups. So there's no standard answer to this. For people who are still, let's say, in their 20s or are still younger, I would say think about finding your life partner as if your life depends on it. Actually, your life depends on it. So that is one thing that nobody teaches us in school or college. That you have to find the right person. I mean, this person is going to be with you till you die, like, you know. That's the most important person. So it's even more important than your startup or your business or even your parents, because your parents will leave, you know. So think about it, like invest your energy, your time into finding the right person. If it requires you to be physically fit, go to the gym.
Look good for that.
Look good, yeah. I mean, the truth is, if you want to find an
Nobody wants to
ideal,
be with ugly people.
yeah, nobody wants to be with ugly people, low energy people. So invest, like, I completely agree with what Ishan is saying about longevity. And longevity is my favorite topic. I can talk about it for hours. I think my next startup is going to be in longevity. So yeah, even like I quote Naval Ravikant again. So if your life is a bunch of concentric circles, your business, your family, etc., your mental and physical health is right at the center of that universe. So first you take care of yourself, you take care of your mental health, your physical health, nutrition, exercise. This is a very, very important. This is core to your existence. So focus on that. If it's not there, then you won't be able to do anything. Like you won't be able to make a successful startup. That's for sure. So focus on that, and if that is, let's say, fixed, then the next part is finding a good life partner.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I recently found someone. And,
Nice.
but it was a struggle. It was a
Something is starting.
so because I mean that's why I realized the value of finding the right person.
कितना टाइम हो गया?
मुझे
एक साल में तो पता चलता है.
हाँ पता लग गया.
We're all happy things. I don't know about married people, but single people are happy people.
So yeah, to summarize, and then I'll let Dhananjay speak about it. So focus on your mental health, physical health, and finding the right person, right partner who will give you emotional balance and peace. And if all of this is sorted out, then of course startup is the second thing.
Let's take a step back.
We love how Dhananjay is giving the frameworks, and
Yeah.
I think all
Yeah.
entire audience is loving
I think
it.
Dhananjay, you should come here and
Oh yeah. What? No. So sure. Let me try and actually give a framework to this. So I'll give you two things which you can use, and you can maybe, if you want, mentally note this down or other, which I use, so you can think about it. The first is answering three main questions. So the three most important questions for me in my life: what do I work on, where do I live, and who do I marry? In no particular order, but these are the three most important questions. What do I work on, where do I live, who do I marry? I think if you sort of think about these three questions, that's the first step that at least I took towards finding balance. And balance doesn't have to be just work-life balance. It can be, I think like Ritika was trying to say, multiple forms of balance. And I'll sort of double tap on what Piyush said about finding the right person. I think it makes very grateful to Akshat and Ritika for being at my wedding last year, and thanks. And for all who don't know, Akshat behind the camera is a great dancer, so we can get him to dance after this. There should be some entertainment that you take away from today.
काफी entertaining कर दिया है.
Sure. So I think that would be the first thing. The second would be a book I found very useful. So there's a book called What Makes for a Successful Life or something. I forget how do you build a successful life or something. But it's by this guy called Clayton Christensen, I think, who was a Harvard professor. नाम भूल रहा हूँ मैं book का. But उस book का
Innovators Dilemma.
नहीं यार, How do you make for a successful life करके एक है. एंड उस बुक का एक कोर प्रिंसिपल है, मैं आपको कोर प्रिंसिपल दे देता हूँ अगर आपको बुक नहीं पढ़नी. So he said that a lot of times we are foolish for using strategy only at business. We don't use strategy in designing our life. हम बनाते हैं strategy for business. Business का हम vision statement भी बनाएंगे, mission statement भी बनाएंगे, action statement भी बनाएंगे, purpose statement भी बनाएंगे, 36 चीजें कर देंगे, right? But we'll never do that for our own life. And one core reason why we don't do it for our own life is because it's very scary. Who am I? What am I? Who am I supposed to be? मेरा क्या purpose है? मेरा क्या धर्म है? What is my उद्देश्य? Blah 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 blah. बहुत मुश्किल है. So I found, and I'm not, and then the other book that I found which was very relevant to this was the Gita. And I'm not talking whether you're Hindu or Jain or Muslim or whatever. This is not meant to be. Sure, but this is not meant to be from that perspective. It's more that it offers a great way to sort of distill between what is your dharma and karma.
Yeah.
I think the moment you start looking at these sort of fundamental concepts, थोड़ा बहुत balance आने लग जाएगा, जो मैंने at least देखा है. But I think from your question where you're sort of like asking about
Balance.
no, when you're asking about like do you sort of like redefine it and renegotiate it as you go on?
Correct.
Absolutely. Right, because balance looks very different post marriage than it did pre marriage, and we're still sort of figuring that out, what that looks like for us. Balance, we stay with our parents, and sort of that itself presents a lot of different dynamics for which we're trying to negotiate what balance looks like. And I think balance will also change when with God's grace we have kids and a lot of that, right? So then balance will definitely, and there might be some people who might have kids in the audience. That balance will absolutely change then as well. Right, so and it's not at these big life-changing moments that balance changes. Balance can change यार if you're not doing well at home. मान लो आपको कोई conflict हो गया, कोई fight हो गई, आप काम करके दिखाओ उस दिन. It's impossible. So your body automatically understands what balance is, and if you're not asking that question because it's too difficult to ask, then you're doing a disservice to your own body. आपको सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट रियलाइज करना ये है, जो मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ रियलाइज करने की, इज दैट मेरा खुद के साथ भी रिलेशनशिप है. मेरा माय वाइफ के साथ तो है, मेरे फैमिली के साथ है, बट मेरा खुद के साथ भी रिलेशनशिप है. बहुत स्कैरी है, बहुत स्कैरी है. तो आप पहले 3 सवाल देखो, फिर आपका मन करे वो बुक पढ़ लो, फिर आपका मन करे गीता पढ़ लो, फिर उसके बाद पेन पेपर के साथ बैठ जाओ एंड एंजॉय करो.
Finding balance in yourself and then in your surroundings
Yeah.
is the key.
I'll just add something to that.
So it's a very nice viewpoint that I don't know how many people watch football here, but in all Premier football all around the world, the managers push players to get married and have kids. The managers, the owners of the club, they push players to get married young and have kids. Why? Because somehow it is a strong belief that if they marry young, if they have kids, they will be able to focus on work more. Because once your hunt for a good life partner ends, that's when you can put a lot of time and effort into what you're supposed to do at work. However, the only caveat to that is, and what Dhananjay in the end mentioned, I really agree with that, is that do not put all your eggs in one basket. You don't know when your partner is going to get up and walk away. So you need a walk away or to happen to them, but I'm saying that you need to be in love with yourself. Balance, firstly, I was adding to that. I said I'm adding to that. But I'm just saying that there are both things that you need a good life partner. You need to have kids with them. That's how the biggest balance you achieve. But you also need balance inside, wherein you are prepared for things to go downhill. If your partner is to walk away, you will be at peace with yourself.
Thank you so much. So we'll move to individual questions very quickly, short answers. Let us start with Dhananjay. Can we? Yeah. So Dhananjay, you often speak about education, legacy, and your grandfather's teachings. We have seen that in Indian posts. In moments of pressures or ambition, what specific lessons from him do you still return to?
So may he rest in peace. I was his roommate. I was my grandfather's roommate. We slept in the same. It was his room. I slept in, Especially after my grandmother, may she rest in peace, passed away. So he was my roommate. I was his roommate. I think a few. I take a lot of lessons from him, which I still carry forth with me. But I think a few. One is that when you think about education, pedigree, chalo chodo. But when you think about education, education is not a part of your body. It's your skin. It is your body. तो आप उसको अपने से जुदा नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है? आप think Ishan mentioned something कि आप सब छोड़ के चले जाओगे. Actually, you take your education with you to your grave, right? But you take that education with you, right? So that's the first. You need to understand that it's your skin. The moment you start thinking like it's your skin, you will invest in it the same amount of time, maybe more, that you invest in, the hygiene that you do every day. You have a bath every day. You maybe put on some makeup every day. You maybe wash your face every day, trim your beard. जितना आप अपने skin पे मेहनत कर रहे हैं, when you start treating education as the skin of your body, आप उतना मेहनत उसमें करने लग जाएंगे. And the second thing, and I was supposed to be a short answer, sorry for the long thing, but the second thing is know what your dharma is. Fundamentally, your only dharma is to do right unto the other person. Right? I'm here because मैंने कुछ सीखा है, and अगर मेरे को कोई publicity नहीं चाहिए, but if somebody can benefit from मेरे कुछ lessons, then I would have done my dharma for today. Right? So आपका धर्म सिर्फ एक है. How can you help the other person? That's about it.
So the next question is, you're building in spaces of water, fintech, where the change is slow and systematic. How do you stay motivated when the impact isn't immediate or visible?
Yeah, I think celebrate the small wins. Like I'm okay if my filters, they go by Jal Kavach. I think they're on Blinkit in Gurgaon, and they're sold out or something now, and that's a big win for us. Even if it's sold out, मतलब 100 pieces ही डाले थे हमने, वो चलो बिक गए, कोई बात नहीं, हम बहुत खुश हैं. हमारे को अपना पहला कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिला to supply filters to 1,000 houses of kids. बहुत खुश हैं. It doesn't have to be a big defense contract, but हम खुश हैं. Right? So आप अपनी छोटी wins को नजरअंदाज मत करो, because daily basis पे आपको इतने धक्के पड़ेंगे कि वो छोटी wins पे आप cling on करके अगर करोगे तो आप अगले दिन बैठ के आगे बढ़ सकते हो. The other thing that I would say is that I think your question has the answer, is that systematic change है, एक सिस्टम का चेंज है. तो शेयर होल्डर वर्सेस स्टेक होल्डर के बीच में अगर आपको फर्क पता हो तो आप रोज उठ के अपने आप को मेंटली अलाइन कर सकते हो. तो मैं आपको एक छोटा सा उदाहरण देता हूँ. MDH करके कंपनी है, वो मसाले बेचती है. आप टाटा ले आओ, रिलायंस ले आओ, बिरला ले आओ, कोई भी ब्रांड ले आओ, कोई भी बड़ा अडानी ले आओ, किसी को भी ले आओ, they've all done, I mean I have massive respect for, बहुत अच्छा काम किया. वो MDH को एक मदर की हाउस से रिप्लेस नहीं कर पाएंगे. कुछ भी हो जाए, वो MDH को मदर के हाउस से नहीं रिप्लेस कर पाएंगे. चाहे वो सस्ता बेच दें, चाहे वो कुछ भी कर दें, because the mother is going to use that in her cooking and is going to feed that to her child. The most important decision of a mother or of a father, of a parent, is what goes inside my child. Right? So the way to think about it is that MDH ने stakeholders पकड़े, mothers को identify किया, trust build किया. Similar है fintech में, पानी में हम पानी देते हैं 99.9999%. अब हम एक और 9 ऐड कर सकते हैं उसके आगे, फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. स्टैंडर्ड हम मीट कर चुके हैं, सर्टिफिकेट हमारे को आ चुका है, पीने लायक है वो पानी, पर हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं. हम आज भी गूगल कोशिश करता है that its server uptime is 99.999999999, right? So stakeholder versus shareholder का फर्क है.
Thank you so much. Those were amazing answers. Piyush, so you moved between research, policy, and entrepreneurship. Why commit building a company, one of the hardest long games, when you had other options open to you?
So I think the answer is my personality doesn't match a lot with academic research and policy. This is what I realized. Like I've been a part of academics for almost a decade, and the greatest learning was that I'm sort of a very hyperactive, almost borderline anxious person. And when I'm starting a company, of course, as a founder or as a CEO, there are so many moving parts, and I like being busy managing all these moving parts, and it aligns more with my personality. Yeah, so that's the short answer.
So in a world obsessed with speed, how do you decide when to move fast and when to slow down?
Okay, I'll say, I'll speak from the perspective of a founder on a 0 to 1 journey.
Okay.
If you're starting out a company, initially, before PMF, like before product market fit, you have to move very strategically. You can't like move in a certain direction and put all your energy in a direction, and maybe a year or two later you figure out that the direction was completely wrong. So this is the phase in a 0 to 1 journey when you have to be very careful. You have to be very strategic about which direction to put your focus on, because you'll have limited time, you'll have limited energy, maybe you have limited money because you have not raised capital. So that's where I won't say slow, but you move very strategically. And once you find the product market fit, once you know that your technology is being accepted in this particular market, and the client is probably going to give you recurring revenue, and that's when you pick up speed and then you fucking run, you know. So yeah, so it depends on where you are in the journey. Pre-PMF, be strategic, post-PMF, just run.
Thank you. I think a lot of people have a lot to learn. Thank you, Piyush. So Ishan, you have built across music, marketing, non-profits, and now mindful drinking. What thread connects all of these for you?
I think the biggest thread that connects all of these three for me is to just the motivation to wake up in the morning and do something and like achieve something on that day. I am, as much as I want to be the person who knows what's going to happen in the next 5 years, I don't. And as much as I make 5-year, 3-year plans, I don't know what's going to happen. But what I know is that I need to wake up every morning and do something, do some justice to everything that I do, everything that I've learned. The foundation that I run, we feed more than 500 strays across New Delhi, stray cats, stray dogs. My agency, we are working with ITC hotels. We do all their design and marketing work. With Catwalk, we have working with over 200 restaurants now, supplying non-alcoholic spirits to them. So every morning you wake up and you sort of make a resolution, and that resolution drives you. That आप रात को नींद भी इसीलिए आती है क्योंकि सुबह उठना है. अपने 8 घंटे ले लो, 7 घंटे ले लो जो तुम्हें मिलता है, और फिर सुबह काम करना है. बाकी सब I like to leave it on God and like just pray about it.
As a creative founder, how do you protect joy when business demands consistency and scale?
Joy, you said.
Joy, because you are.
No, joy is a state of mind. I'm generally, I like things light. Like this is what I do in my office. This is what I do with my team. This is what I do with my clients. And I think it sort of helps me because I'm also a creative person. I am in a creative job. All my jobs, my part is mostly creativity. So I can have fun while I'm doing it. But there are people who have fun while doing numbers. There are people who have fun while working on technology. You guys have fun working on technology. So to each their own, but my joy stays with me wherever I go.
So the question was exactly around that. How do you protect that joy when business demands consistency and scale?
I pray. I pray. That's my focus. Like I pray. I read the Bible. I understand that there's a quote from Rumi which says that the one who got you this far will take you further. So every time I want to have fun, yes, in the back of my head I have stresses of different works that I do, but I have to remind myself that at some point I need to focus on fun. जितना focus हम काम पे करते हैं उतना ही focus fun पे भी करना पड़ता है. Otherwise, we'll burn out.
So, thank you so much. But one last sentence, which you have finished the sentence honestly. The long game, which is theme for today, is really about.
Making a difference.
Okay, Piyush, can we hear from you? The long game is really about.
मैं फ्रेमवर्क इसका भी देख बनाने लगा हूँ।
You take a step further, we'll take a step back.
The long game is about.
Hold the mic.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
He doesn't want to think out loud.
Yeah.
The journey, maybe the journey so far, if you can describe that.
I think happiness.
Okay.
Seeking happiness.
Okay.
It's
So
okay.
we
it's okay.
really love the answer.
We're
So
so
I can give you,
Okay.
I can give you a meta answer to this.
Okay.
The long game is about understanding what the game is.
Now can you explain this?
No, I'm not going to explain. But the street answer would be one thing would be long game is about persistence.
Okay.
But the long game genuinely at a more meta level is about trying to understand what the game really is.
Got an inception answer. Thank you.